Good evening. Welcome to the Doves for Peace virtual TV community and broadcast platform. We offer eclectic, ecumenical, spiritually focused programs featuring mystics, monastics, contemplatives, artists, healers, and light workers and evolutionaries from around the world. Our website is www.dovesforpeacevirtualtv.com. You can find our schedule of programs there, as well as view live and archived programs. I am Cynthia Kiteley, the founder and administrator of the Mystical Order of the White Rose, and tonight's program is on Praying the Cycles of the Day, a 21st century daily office. It is the second program in a four-part series that I am presenting that will explore the four core spiritual practices of the Mystical Order of the White Rose. The Mystical Order of the White Rose was founded by me in 2008. It is an online monastery without walls that supports mystics and monastics. At this point, I would like to start with a prayer, as is only fitting, and it will be a morning prayer, even though this is an evening broadcast, and I will conclude with an evening prayer. Unwavering presence, as I awake and I seek your peace. Birds sing throughout the world. The ocean washes countless shores. Clouds move across the skies, and you are here in all of this. I open my heart to you this day. Since before the beginning of time, you are Emmanuel, God with us. You fill my being. The eyes with which I see your creation are the eyes through which you see. There is nothing for me to gain, nothing for me to lose. I look at the sky. There you are. I consider my hands. There you are. Amen. That prayer is from a prayer book for the 21st century by John McQuiston II, who is a lawyer by day and an Episcopalian author by night. The Mystical Order of the White Rose is anchored in and draws nourishment and inspiration from the modern day movements of new monasticism, interspirituality, the re-emergence of the divine feminine, and the revival of traditional monastic practices. The Mystical Order of the White Rose is also an offshoot of the Order of Melchizedek and the Order of the Elohim, which are ancient, cosmic, and entirely off-planet spiritual orders. The four spiritual practices I am devoting these four Doves for Peace programs to have been used for centuries by mystics and monastics around the world. They are meditation, prayer, journaling, and reflective reading, also called Lectio Divina, which is Latin for divine reading. Today's topic, Praying the Cycles of the Day, a 21st century daily office, focuses on the quintessential Western Christian monastic practice of a daily rhythm of prayer. The daily office is also called the divine office and fixed hour prayer. It has a pre-Christian origin in the ancient Jewish tradition of reciting prayers at set hours of the day. In Psalm 119, it says, 7 times a day I praise you for your righteous laws. Saint Simeon of Thessaloniki says, the times of prayer and the services are 7 in number, like the number of gifts of the Spirit, since the holy prayers are from the Spirit. Christian monastic tradition has to this day maintained a daily prayer cycle of praying 7 times a day. I chose 4 times a day as the cycle of prayer that I use for myself and share with those involved in the mystical order of the White Rose community. I'm going to turn off my heater here. It's warming up. I believe it is a more manageable and better suited rhythm of prayer for modern mystics, monastics, and contemplatives who lead ordinary busy lives and typically deal with many family and professional responsibilities. My own involvement in monastic traditions in general and prayer traditions in particular began 20 years ago in 1994. I was living in a non-traditional Christian spiritual community in the hills of northeast Oklahoma prior to undertaking graduate studies in anthropology at the University of Arkansas, which was not too terribly far away. It's just as we were on the border of Arkansas. And even though I knew I was going to embark on graduate studies that would result in a master's degree in anthropology, and as it turned out, my specialization was in museum management, and I indeed went on to have a career in history museum management that I retired from in 2013 when I moved to Mississippi from Arkansas. So there I was in this secluded, non-traditional Christian community in the hills of Oklahoma. Oklahoma doesn't really have mountains. It's a rather flat state. And during the early winter of 1994, I felt I needed greater clarification about my role spiritually and just what I was going to be when I grew up, you know. I should probably add that I was 42 at the time that I embarked on relocation to a new state and my graduate studies. So at age 42, there I was, and I asked God, I said, God, what am I going to be when I grow up? And the reply I received was, you are going to be a 21st century liturgist. Now, that was a very kind of startling thing to hear, especially as the 21st century was still 6 years away. And it clearly prepared me for the fact that in line with my entire life history of being a late bloomer, that my spiritual niche, if you will, and an important part of my life work would be 21st century liturgy. Liturgy is the way we structure worship and spiritual practices. So I thought, well, that's all very interesting. But I wasn't willing to wait 6 years to embark on this new energy track in my life. And I proceeded to create a 400-page anthology of devotional material. Much of the content was prayer. They were prayers that I, being an kind of a mystical omnivore, drew from many traditions, many religious and spiritual traditions. It was a compilation of prayers, poetry, which I consider to be a form of sacred text, and precepts, is what I called it, quotations. I organized this into daily cycle of prayer. Okay, so I had, and that I still use that structure, which is morning, noon, early evening, and late evening, right before you go to bed. In the traditional daily office, that's called compline. I also included sections on what I consider to be spiritual attributes, spiritual qualities, spiritual energies that are very meaningful and important to me. They included topics such as joy, peace, love, wisdom, creation, death, the cosmic dance, the divine feminine, and many, many others. That was my launching of myself, albeit somewhat prematurely, into a very basic form of being a liturgist. And indeed, that 400-page, well, it's in a notebook, it's in a 3-ring notebook, one big thing. That indeed will be the foundation of what will probably in the next year or so be published books of devotional reference material for myself and members of the Mystical Order of the White Rose and anyone else who finds that helpful and valuable to them. So that's how I got started. And one of the things I feel very strongly about is that whether you call it new monasticism or whether you choose to focus on the revival of traditional monasticism and monastic practices, I don't feel that you need to be Christian or Buddhist to participate in a monastic lifestyle and in monastic practices, all of which are life enhancing. Of course, it takes 21st century and 20th century science to tell us all this, but we knew that anyway. Prayer has now been scientifically proven to have powerful positive effects, not only on the person who prays, but on the world at large and on people they pray for. So all these traditional spiritual practices are now getting a lot of scientific research and backing. The Christian and Buddhist monastic traditions are the most well-known, and many people have shied away. People we might well call modern mystics and contemplatives and artists and healers, because they don't identify themselves as Christians or Buddhists. And I feel that the riches and the enormous rewards of monasticism need to be available to all people, regardless of their particular faith or spiritual tradition. So that said, I've told you the 4 times of day that I like to use for the divine office. Now, the actual prayers I use are a medley of, as I mentioned before, prayers, poems, and precepts, quotations. And let me give you an example of one for the noon hour, for example. This one is by D.H. Lawrence. It's more of a poem. The sun has climbed the hill. The day is on the downward slope. Between the morning and the afternoon, stand I here with my soul and lift it up. My soul is heavy with sunshine and steeped with strength. The sunbeams have filled me like a honeycomb. It is the moment of fullness and the top of the morning. You can see how this type of devotional content does not limit itself to being used by a Christian or by a Buddhist. And I find immense joy not only in having these resources at hand and available, but I found great joy in putting them together, and I know I will find great joy in taking them to the next level where they can be published, even if self-published, which is the route I'm looking at, and made available to those who might find this helpful. The monastic traditions they help us to explore inner space. And I consider inner space to be the most thrilling, powerful, exciting frontier that we can delve into. Every one of the 4 core spiritual practices that I've identified help you not just to have a lifestyle or a particular habit or practice, but it helps you to deepen your connection with God, with inner space, with divine energies and divine beings. And So, very much so does meditation and journaling and Lectio Divina, reflective reading. The inner experience of prayer for me has both a grounding and uplifting effect. And I also use what's called toning in some of my prayer time, where my voice alone, without words, is lifted in praise and in the opening of my heart and the receiving of divine energies. So the part of the grounding aspect of prayer for me, and I think for many, is that it lets us structure our relationship with the divine. And that structure and the stability of doing prayer on a fixed schedule is very grounding, very centering. But the act of prayer takes you to, and often into, not just to a portal, but through a portal into inner space and into a deepening of your relationship with God or whatever divine beings and or divine energies are most personally meaningful to you. In addition to eagerly waiting for my self-publication of highly eclectic, ecumenical, multi-faith, non-sacred, non-traditionally sacred devotional materials, I would encourage you to create your own prayer anthology that you can use on a daily basis, and it will be very much yours. I always like the idea of handwriting such material. I think it imprints it in our brain and puts more of our energy into it. But really, whatever works. If my own handwriting, the cursive is awful, and so sooner or later I eventually type stuff up and print it out because otherwise it can be a little hard to read. But yes, I very much encourage you to consider creating your own rule of life, is what the monastic term is. And I would encourage you too to incorporate a daily cycle, a daily rhythm of prayer. But you will know best if that is for you. Just ask for guidance, and I'm sure you will find it. But that is very easy to do. And again, I find a lot of people who have been put off by the fact that to engage with such monastic traditions as fixed hour prayer and meditation and reflective reading, Lectio Divina and all that, they feel like they could only venture into that realm if they are Christian or Buddhist. And that's a shame. That's really a shame. So I guess you could say I'm sort of a missionary for making monasticism available to the highest number of people without regard to their religious or spiritual traditions. Okay, so that's really about it, and I'm going to read an evening prayer for you now. I may do a 5th program on creating your own monastic rule, but for right now, I'll just content myself with this. Okay. This is called Out Here. By Richard Shelton. And actually, I'm going to read you 2, and then we'll wrap up. Okay? Out Here. When the moon rises and Sonora, which is a desert, is covered with silence brilliant as snow, I walk into a dream unafraid. Out here, nothing needs me. Nothing fails me. I lie down in the bed of an arroyo, look at the stars, and forget all the rest. When there is nothing left, I remember the precision of the hummingbird piercing the dark heart of the hibiscus and doing no damage. I begin to hear night breathing through me, promising that death does not last forever, and teaching me the secret names of the stars. That's by Richard Shelton. This other one is very short. It's by Catherine Mosley, and it's from her book, The Book of Uncommon Prayer. Protect me from the undertow of failing light, the suck of wind lifting the last starlings from the field, leaving nothing but crickets and the smooth embrace of black. That's by Catherine Mosley. Actually, I'll go one last very short one. This is Night, a night devotional. O guardian of galaxies, mother of the cosmos, and father of stars beyond counting, may I sleep in you tonight. And with that, I leave you. I bid you good night, sweet dreams, and bright blessings. If you want to find out more about the Mystical Order of the White Rose or contact me, you can do so. The website link is www.mysticalwhiterose.com. My email is mysticalwhiterose@gmail.com. Thank you for joining Doves for Peace Virtual TV. See you next time. Blowing out my candle now.